Hello and welcome to Ditch Witch Diaries. Guess what? We are in a whole new era. We are in the era of trees. So we are going to just talk about trees and talk about different trees and go through all the trees. And I'm so excited. I can't even tell you. It's going to be so much fun. So I'm going to start us off with yew. I don't know if you know about the yew tree, but we're going to all find out together. So here we go.
I'm
Okay,
going to be crocheting while you talk to us.
perfect. I love it. So the yew tree is so incredible, and I had no idea about it. So we're all going to learn about this, and it's so magical and wild and interesting. So here, let's just kick it off. So there are a bunch of different species of yew. Actually, not a bunch. We'll see. But they're all Taxus. That's the name of the genus or whatever is Taxus. So that's what it is. So this is what a yew kind of branch looks like. This is the Taxus baccata, and it's the botanical drawing. And this is what a yew tree looks like when it's there.
Big,
But look
big
at the trunk is so interesting, and we're gonna find out some really interesting things about how it's just amazing. It's an amazing tree. But I say that about all the plants. I'm so I love them all. Okay, so we're going to start off with some poetry as we are wont to do when I am presenting, especially. I have found some poetry and let's just read it. Old yew, which graspest at the stones that name the underlying dead, thy fibers net the dreamless head, thy roots are wrapped about the bones. And gazing on thee, sulling tree, sick for thy stubborn hardihood, I seem to fail from out of my blood and grow incorporate into thee. And Alfred Lord Tennyson must have known something. We're going to see that about the yew. Must have known about this tree because nothing could be truer than what he has said. Okay, so the parts used. The whole tree. And actually, that's hilarious because it is the hole in the tree.
I
There
love
is,
it.
so that is the holiest of the truth. So it should be a W, of course, I know that, but it is the hole in the tree is also
Yeah.
used. We're going to see that. The wood bark, the seeds, and the leaves. Other names, I couldn't find one other name for this tree.
Mm,
The
yeah.
tree is what it is. It's
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So correspondences, and these are plentiful and lovely. So the element is water. The planet is Saturn, and there was wide agreement about that. I didn't find
Mm,
anybody who disagreed, which I love when there's wide agreement.
yeah. Seriously.
I know, isn't it nice? Because
It's
sometimes
so
they just
nice.
disagree. Like everybody's got a different idea. So it's nice
Yeah.
when it's full agreement. The astrological sign is Capricorn.
Ooh.
The temperature is earthy, cold and dry in the third degree. And you know what? It likes cold and dry environments. I'll tell you, or I'm sorry, cold and wet environments because it's
Uh,
water. So
uh,
it does not grow where I live in Southern California at all. No species grow there. There's like a Japanese species that's a little more drought tolerant, but it does not grow in Southern California. The tarot card is death. And let's
nice.
see why. I know, I love it. The rune is Awaz. Is that
Mm,
how you say it? Awaz?
mhm. Yeah.
Okay. The chakra is if you want to look at it, because it's tied to ancestors, so it could be the root chakra. It's also tied to transformation and to spirit contact and rebirth. And so it could be the crown chakra as well.
Mm.
And we see it tied to a lot of sabbats. Yule, Samhain, Mabon, Beltane, Ostara, all of those, definitely there's different aspects of it that are tied to those. And we have goddesses and heroines that aren't necessarily goddesses, but have great stories about them. So Hecate, it's tied to Hecate for a bunch of reasons we're going to see. It's tied to Athena, Banva or Banwa, Deirdre, and all the chthonic goddesses. Persephone or Prosperina is Proserpina. Sorry,
What's chthonic?
Those are underworld.
Ah,
So underworld goddesses. It's tied to death and underworld goddesses, and
nice.
so Persephone is a good one, a good example.
Yeah.
Moon phase is the dark moon and the waning moon. And crystals or stones that are tied to it are smoky quartz, black moonstone, and blue fluorite. And I had to look those up. They're pretty rad. Black
Black
moonstone.
moonstone is one of my favorites. It's hard. It's kind of hard to find though. Like
It
I
is.
want a pendant of it, and I found a really beautiful pendant for like white moonstone, but I'm looking for one for black.
It's amazing. I love
Yeah.
black moonstone too.
Yeah.
And blue fluorite's pretty intense too. It looks fake. It looks like glass or something, but it's real.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I might have some blue fluoride actually. It's beautiful
nice.
though.
You have all sorts of stuff.
I have everything.
Every stone.
I have everything. One of my current favorites though is cave calcite. I don't know if you've seen it, but it looks like the oh man, I totally forgot. The columns in the caves. I can't remember what they're called. But anyways, it looks like that.
Wow.
What
Cool.
what are those called? I can't remember. Anyways, it's really cool.
We'll see what happens. So the U plant. So what is the plant information? All parts except the arils, which are like these fruits, are toxic. Okay, so this is a toxic plant by most accounts. And the most toxic parts are the seeds and the needles. Okay, but the seeds are within these berries. And but it's really like they're like cones is what they are, and they're really like these modified cones, and they're called arils, and it's like these like big seeds that are within the berries.
It's like pomegranate seeds, yeah?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know if pomegranate seeds are arils, but
Mm.
anyway. So there's only 8 species of yew, and it is an evergreen tree. And this is completely scentless, which is interesting. It's not like, even though it's evergreen, it's like most evergreen plants are so scented, like cedar or pine or spruce. No, this is not. This is a scentless plant.
Actually, I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
stop you. It is actually hard to see the writing on your slide.
Oh,
Yeah, I just
okay.
noticed.
So maybe we shouldn't do the layout like
Yeah.
this. Okay.
I
Oh.
mean, I like the idea, but we would have to make our font way bigger. Oh, there you go. That's good.
Over the shoulder. Hello, little me talking. I will see. Okay, let's try this one. This is fun. I can't wait for this is a new era. I can't believe I found this finally. We're changing it up. Okay, so this is one of the longest living trees. Okay, so you know what else is a long living tree is ginkgo biloba, and that's always my go-to long living tree. But this one is insanely long living, and there's of course they've mythologized it to be longer, which we'll see. So let's see. It takes over 100 years for you to even reach full maturity. So that should tell you something. That's a long living tree. Many of these species and many yews are going to live up to 2,000 years old.
Okay.
So the Forringall yew in Perthshire, so some say is somewhere between 3,000 and 9,000 years old. Okay, some say 9,000. That seems like pushing a bit, but the smallest time is that it's a 3,000-year-old tree, which is insane.
Yeah.
There's a yew in Chapultepec, Mexico, that's 6,000 years old.
Jeez.
I know, I'm telling you, this is some old shit here. These are like wise old trees. Like we were talking
Yeah.
about like the cactuses, like when we were that they were like what are they? The
Hmm.
saguaro cactuses that they were like wise old men. Like
Yeah.
this is a wise old lady. These
Mm.
are wise old trees. So this is what happens though. So its branches, they grow out and they grow into the ground and new kind of trunks form out of those branches and the old trunk withers a little bit, but it's still the same plant. It is still the
Interesting.
same tree. It's not a new tree. But it's still the same tree.
Hmm.
And not only that, but because of this, as the tree ages, its trunk will lose the inside. It will become hollowed out, but it's still healthy.
Hmm.
So let me just tell you, let's just do this up front. There are symptoms of yew poisoning. If
Hmm.
you've been poisoned by yew, your tongue will swell and you will froth from the mouth.
Oh,
A
God.
dry froth. I don't know what a dry or a wet froth is, but I'm telling you, if you're
Yeah.
frothing from the mouth, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Okay? You're full of yew poison.
Oh,
Okay? And your heartbeat quickens. So, yew poisoning.
interesting.
Don't eat those yew seeds. They're red and
Um,
and we'll see. They poison animals though too. So if
mm,
the animals aren't eating it, it's a good sign that you should not eat it either.
mm,
Okay, and the
mm,
animals will not be eating this. But the wood is super hard, okay? And it resists water. So it's waterproof and super hard. And it was traditionally used to make longbows.
mm,
So now there are a lot of stories. There's a lot of cultural importance. There's a lot of this. So let's just hunker down and talk about this cultural importance. Okay, we're going to start out with Egypt because that's one of the oldest, like where we see this, although I put the other one, the Greeks, like I think last. So we're gonna bookend this conversation with these like ancient traditions here. Okay, so it was first used for funerary woodworking in Egypt, but it was used for protection, but they really were it was what you see this woman doing is what was happening. They were etching into it, like carving it, like with things that were said. So, yes. And then we have England, and we go through a million different parts of the UK. So, this is one part, England first. Okay. So, witches were said to live under yews. And if you spent any such time under a yew relaxing, you're going to meet a witch there. So, too bad we don't have yew trees. Maybe I'd spend some time underneath it relaxing.
I'll have to see if we have any.
You do.
Oh,
You
really?
do.
I mean,
You.
we're wet and
Yes.
cold.
We're going to talk about that. Yes.
Oh, nice.
So in the north of England, they used, and we're going to see this come up, they used a yew twig to find lost objects. And this is going to come up in a bit. There's stories about this too. When you get near the lost object, the yew branch will like twitch or move or jump in your hand.
Interesting.
So in 1990, there was this. Okay, this is such a great story because there was all these like rumors or mythologies that the yew, and we're going to see those come up. The yew that's why it was so attached to the dead because it was said that it would wrap around different parts of the dead skeleton or the skeleton of the person. And so but in 1990, there was this huge storm in England and it toppled over an ancient yew tree and there was 30 skeletons attached to its roots.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So it's true. So
Mhm.
there you have it. All the things we're going to talk about, you can recall back to this moment where we talked about that
Um,
1990 incident.
hmm.
So you're supposed to put branches of the yew tree on graves of your beloved. And in medieval funerals, they even put these like pieces of a yew tree in the funeral shrouds.
Mm.
And so they made garlands. Here's another thing in England that they do. They would make garlands of yew and rosemary and willow, and they were put in the coffins of unhappy lovers.
Interesting.
And the Old English, like YR, means a bow made of yew wood. So there we have it, England. Now we're going to hop on over to Germany.
Oh, wait, full screen it. Oh, there you go.
Okay, do you see it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It
good.
just
So
was delayed.
excellent. So now we're going to go to Germany, and there's a lot. So we're just going to get going. So yew was used as an amulet around people's necks with Germanic people to protect from evil. And this is another feature of the yew tree that's very interesting. Often it was made into equal armed crosses, like the one that you see right here. That's like a feature that you see all the time, is this equal armed cross that was made with yew branches. And for the Germanic peoples, they hung it in buildings and barns as protection. So some say that the world tree, like that from the Germanic people's point of view, was not an ash tree, but what was called an evergreen ash tree, which was a yew.
Hmm.
I know.
Interesting.
I know. Huh? So, and we're going to see that again. So that like the world tree is going to come up in other contexts, in other cultures in regards to the yew tree as well. So the Germanic god of the hunt, Ol, had his hall in, quote, the Valley of the Yews. And it's associated with ancient rune magic. And you can nail a piece of yew behind your door to protect from witches entering your home. That's very sad because
we're the
I
best.
think, yeah, exactly, because you want me in your home. I know you do. So now for like it's the Norwegian, Sweden and Norway and all up there in that Northern Europe region. They have some interesting things to say about yew as well. So yew is they would hang whole branches in their home to protect. I love when they say from bad witchcraft. So that's thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, I may be a little bad, but we'll see. So you can carry a branch or affix to your animal for the same purpose to protect you. You can like carry it around then or put it on your animal and it'll protect from bad witchcraft. So this is another one. So it was, and I didn't have the other quote. Okay, so it was considered the spine of the world tree, the Yggdrasil. So yeah, this was the spine was made out of yew. Now we'll move to Ireland. Okay, so in Ireland, so there's in there, they have a calendar. Okay, and trees are associated with each. I don't know if it doesn't equate out to months. I think there's not 12 months. We have like the Gregorian calendar. So I think that, like the Ogham calendar is a different calendar, right? And the yew is named Idad, and it represents, quote, the new year that is born from the old, the new soul spring from ancient roots in a seemingly fresh new body. So it kind of goes along with how it lasts and how it it's like when it goes into the ground, then a new trunk is born. So it's like the same old soul in a fresh new body. But rebirth is a huge part of this. It is a revered tree for mourning, and we see that all over the place. It's tied with death, it's tied with graveyards, it's tied with mourning. The roots of the tree, see, this is one of those parts where we talked about how that tree in 1990 fell over. So the roots of the tree would grow through the eyes of the dead to stop them from seeing their previous life. That was one of the stories. We're going to see another one too about another place where that might grow.
Mm.
In Ireland, they make wine barrels with yew wood, probably because it's waterproof and really hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's a story. We're going to have a couple of them. So, once upon a time, the bard Phelim had a daughter named Deirdre, and there was a prophecy that many wars would be fought over Deirdre's beauty. So Phelim married Deirdre off when she was a little girl, like he betrothed her to King Connor of Ulster. And she was just little. And so he locked her up in this prison, and she like didn't want to be married off to this old man, right? And so she escaped from the prison and she fell in love. She fell in love with this other nobleman named Nisha.
Mm.
And Nisha and Deirdre, they ran away to Scotland, but they were lured back by King Connor of Ulster. And because of this, when they came back, there were wars began surrounding Deirdre, just like the prophecy. Okay, and when Nisha was killed, Deirdre then killed herself too. And where she was buried, a yew tree sprouted. And now that you know how it grows, it grew so long that its branches grew out and it reached Nisha's grave. And then another yew sprouted in Nisha's grave. So they were united even in death.
Mm.
I know.
It's like gothic romantic. I like it.
You love Gothic
I
romance.
do love gothic romantic.
So,
Mm.
the ancient name of Ireland is Lurn, and it means island of the yew trees.
Mm.
So apparently there's a lot of yew trees in England and Ireland. That's one of the species of yew.
Mm.
And this is one of 5 sacred trees to Ireland. So it's very important. Now, Breton is a part of the United Kingdom. And see, here's another one. The roots of the tree are supposed to grow through the dead's mouths. And
Mm.
this allows for rebirth of the soul, and it stops the dead from talking.
Mm.
So now in Wales, and look at this picture here. If you can't see it, it is amazing. This is a picture of the bleeding yew, and they have all their trees bleed like this. Okay, so this is trees at the Nevern Church from the 6th century have been bleeding sap for over 700 years. And they have, of course, mythology has sprung up around that. So one of the things that they think may have been causing this is that there was innocent monks who were hung there.
Oh.
Or the Nevern Church may be the grave of a high king. Or just the sadness of our world, that our world sucks garbage. And so
Yeah.
they just cry, they just weep for
Oh.
the state of our world. So
Mm.
you can take yew and put branches on the graves of the beloved. This is all from Wales too. So you can put branches on the graves of the beloved there, as we've seen. So it's also, this is another thing that's kind of a theme, is that it's associated with the Fae. So in a forest, a magical yew grew in a fairy circle. And if you walked underneath it, you would go to sleep and you would lose time. And that's kind of a theme with the Fae too. You like walk through a fairy into a fairyland or something like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's part of the yew story as well. And it was such bad luck to cut down a yew tree in Wales that if you did so, you could be at risk of death even, because you've incurred such bad luck.
Mm.
If you fall asleep under the yew, you could get sick or you could die in Wales.
Dang.
And so this says that it's bad luck to use a yew during Yule, but some other stories say that it's not, that it's tied with Yule. There's like a part of it that's tied with Yule because it's
Mm.
tied with winter. So, and darkness and going to like the underworld and the dark half of the year. stuff. Actually, not the dark half of the year. It would be coming out of the dark half of the year is when it, but that arising, but it's tied to winter. So, and I guess winter really starts when? It really starts at what? At the winter solstice, or maybe right before, like the
Yeah.
when does winter
I
start?
mean, I think that's when like why our calendar kind of put that on
I
as the start of
know.
winter solstice.
Hold on. When does winter start? Yeah, like winter starts in the northern hemisphere on the winter solstice.
Yeah.
So that's probably why. Like it's tied to winter and winter starts in the winter solstice. So that's that. So also in Wales, we have another story from Wales, and this is a very interesting story too. So once upon a time, there was this cattle driver, and he was using a U switch to drive his cattle. And he was coming across the London Bridge and coming home from a market, and a wizard saw that when he lifted his U switch above the water, that it would jump. It would like, because it's associated with water. So I love that. So it would jump. And so the wizard asked where he got this special U branch. And he told the wizard that it was from this ancient yew tree. And the wizard immediately was thinking there could be this special passage under the yew tree, and there could be all sorts of treasure under the yew tree. And so he asked this cattle driver to lead him to that yew. And so the man led the wizard back to Wales to this yew tree, and he saw that the wizard knew that it was close to a place where it was storied that King Arthur's men hadn't really died, but were just in deep sleep underneath this yew tree. And so the wizard and the cattle driver found the magic passage that the wizard knew was there. And while the moon was rising in Jupiter and right before dawn, they made their way down into the passage. And they found all the treasure down there. They found all sorts of treasure, more treasure than they could even carry. And so they also, though, found all of King Arthur's sleeping knights around the treasure. And so they gathered up as much treasure as they could hold, and they carefully made their way up the passage. And they made sure not to ring the bell, because there was a little bell outside the passage. And they made sure not to ring that bell. So they got out and all was well. But 3 years later, apparently the cattle driver had used all his riches. And so he came back and looked for the yew tree, and he found the yew tree. And unfortunately, this time he wasn't so careful. He rang the bell, and the knights, they rose from their slumber, and they like barred the door, and they kicked him out of the treasure room, and they banned him from the riches forever. Very interesting story. So in Yorkshire, we also have some interesting history and so here's some lore. There's a clergyman in Yorkshire. A clergyman fell in love with a local girl, and she thwarted his advances. So he cut off her head and threw it into a yew.
Jesus.
I know. I don't even know why they tell that story, but it was really the
Typical
clergyman.
man,
I don't know about that. Stay away from clergy. Young girls, stay the hell away. Okay, so these that you see here, these images right here, they are Bronze Age yew wood carvings. These are the actual carvings, and they have quartz for eyes, and they believe that they had religious significance.
Interesting.
So I know. So you can see it for yourself right there. Now we go, and this is because these are about the Druids. So the Druids were in Ireland and it's France now, but it was called Gaul then, and Great Britain. So the yew tree is a favored tree amongst the Druids, and they would even build temples nearby this tree. And it's said that the Druids even worshiped the yew tree. Okay, they would, I love this part too. So they would carry small pieces of yew and then they would shave off like the little pieces and then they would burn it for purification in much the same way that we see smudging happening in. So lots of people were using smoke to cleanse, and the Druids in fact were using yew even though the smoke is a little toxic.
It just made the rituals fun. That's all it did.
Exactly. And make sure you're outside.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
there were certain yews, and of course you can see that these trees have like personalities. Like they all have, they're so unique and interesting and ancient. And so people got to know these trees. So there were certain yews that were associated with fertility. And so the story goes that if a woman walked around the yew in a forward direction and a man walked backwards around the yew, then it would make them fertile.
Hmm.
And it was considered sacred to the feast. So in Italy, we just have one thing. Pliny said it was a cursed tree. I love Pliny. Pliny says. It's always, we
Slimy.
always have to add Pliny's word something. So
Mm.
in the Balkans, there's also stories about this tree from the Balkans. So in the Balkans, they use yew as a protective amulet. And they would either make crosses or they would make these upside down triangles of yew, and you could wear them or you could carry them for protection. Just even carrying or having a yew stick around was considered protective. And the same with animals. So you could put the yew stick on a cow, or you could put the horns of cows into a yew tree and it would protect the cows either direction. Which is interesting, okay? Because the Fae are not known to be super fun. Sometimes they're a little tricky and like they're not exactly like protective little creatures. I would not call the Fae protective little creatures.
No, I wouldn't either.
They do what they want. So the Fae were said to live in yew trees in the Balkans.
I
But
feel like
that,
the Fae association is more along the lines of like the darkness almost. Like just
yes,
because they're not really dark creatures, but it's hardly benevolent, I think.
exactly. I would say so. Yes, I would say so. So in Scotland, so this is an interesting thing. Like this is an association now with Beltane. So the Beltane fire, they used to put it in an ancient yew tree. Like you know how it gets hollowed out and then
Mhm.
a new trunk forms and then the old one withers. So they would actually have, they were so massive, they would, these hollowed out areas that they would have the Beltane fire at the base of of the hollowed out ancient yew tree.
Imagine having that like in your backyard, like a hollowed out yew tree for like a little like fire pit. Wouldn't that be so awesome?
It would be so great. Especially this, I'm so smitten with the yew tree.
Yeah.
So if you carry, this is a weird one this is a weird little thing. If you carry a yew branch from a churchyard, and we're going to see where they're located even. There's many yews that are put in churchyards, especially if the churchyards have grave sites.
Mm,
So if you carry a yew branch from a churchyard, you'll be able to speak, but the person who you speak to won't be able to hear you.
interesting.
I know. So in Spain, yew branches were kept in the house to protect against fire and lightning. And in Greece, it was a gateway to the underworld in Greece. And also, interestingly enough, this is why it's tied to Ostara, is because it's tied to resurrection, like we're talking about, like the dead and resurrection. So in Easter chaplets, you find yew. And like I said, it's connected to eternal life and like a longevity and resurrection and all those things. So also they sacrificed a black bull to Hecate and they would put a wreath of yew around it. These great peeps. So that was a lot, huh? But it's going to give
Yeah,
us an
sounds like
idea
that.
of some of these magical properties that we see with
Hmm.
yew. So obviously it's tied to death. Obviously, we saw it everywhere. And it's grown in graveyards and often in the southwest corner because the yew is considered to be a guardian of the dead. It's in the life tree, it's the entrance to the underworld, it's tied to underworld goddesses, right? It's a tree of the underworld. Like its roots physically grab the dead. It's a funerary tree, obviously. It's used to contact the dead, and especially ancestors. And you can gather it by candlelight at night and put it on ancestor altars, even. That's a possibility for you. It's used for raising the dead. It's also a tree of hex breaking. And obviously, immortality. We talked about it being linked to immortality. How long it lives is like past life regression. It would be a good one to add it to like any sachet or on an altar if you were conducting past life regressions. It's used for divination. And we saw it also, I think I put it in a separate one, but to find lost objects. So November is a potent time to divine with you, apparently, and it's tied to psychic awareness and rebirth. We've talked about that a million times. So it's also good for wand making or stang making. And stangs, I think, are those two when they have like two prongs at the end, a stang.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Let me just make
I
sure.
don't know, but it sounds right. Like the Y-shaped.
Yeah, it's a fork shape. It's a
Yeah.
forked staff used. Yeah. So it's just like a wand that's like forked at the end.
Yeah.
So yew wands and yew stangs are very powerful. And it's sometimes used for dowsing. It's tied to water. So of course it would be. It jumped over the water in that story, right? So we see it used for protection all over the place. You can put the branches over windows, doors, or in the rafters of your home. You can make an equal armed cross, right? And hang it up with thread or make small ones and put it in your pocket or sew it into the lining of your clothes. It can protect you from a dark witch.
Thank God.
I know. You can place the dried shaved bark and needles. Okay, this is an interesting one. So you place the dried shaved bark and needles with graveyard dirt. That's one way. Or in an urn of a beloved dead, and then
Hmm.
put the urn in graveyard dirt. And then you can use that graveyard dirt for protection. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So you can carry an equal armed cross of yew at a graveyard to protect you from the evil dead.
Evil.
Of course, we saw you could use it to find lost objects. So take a twig in your hand and walk around your home. So when you're near the lost item, it will jump and twitch in your hand. More magical property. It's said to have grown in Hecate's garden. Dreaming of you means some things. So it foretells death of another person who's going to leave behind a lot of wealth. If you dream of sitting underneath a yew tree, that's a death.
Yikes.
Don't,
Don't sit under it.
luckily, I'm not really acquainted with yew trees, so it's not like something I might dream of. But if you gaze on it in your dream, if you're gazing on the yew tree from afar, then that means a long life. So,
Hmm.
yes,
Okay.
long life.
Yeah. Close, but not too close.
Exactly. So it's also considered a wishing tree. So it's tied to wishes. And it's like we talked about the Ogham meaning and the druid meaning as well. So we'll go into it again. So Ogham meaning is Idad. So it reminds us that nature is cyclical and our powers of healing, self, and creation are always renewed. So to the Druids, if you randomly think of the you should ask yourself what part of your life is stagnant or withered. And then they even give an affirmation. So let's hear this affirmation without the other parenthetical or parentheses, a parenthetical thing.
Quotes. Again.
Okay. Oh, you of resurrection, I welcome you into my life today. I am using your example to reanimate my hidden talents, my unrecognized potential, and my self-healing power. I think that's one that we can get into, and your mind isn't going to like fight against it because we're talking about hidden talent. So you don't even know about it. Unrecognized potential. You don't recognize it. So you don't have to fight with it. I don't have any unrecognized potential. Well, how the hell do you know? So we talked about, and I'll put a link to that too. We talked about like issues with like with believing that you have to there has to be some sort of belief in like mantras or like affirmations, otherwise you can have a backfire effect and your mind will fight against it. But I feel like this affirmation is really one that you can get behind,
Yeah, agreed.
So the medical disclaimer again, this is for this is, we are not doctors. This is just for your information. And most of the stuff really talks about it being toxic. There is a whole mess of indigenous stuff that we're going to talk about. So, but just know that we're not doctors. And my personal advice is do not mess with this with a you for medicinal purposes. Okay. That's my advice. So that's what I say. So it is toxic. Again, like I said, it's also been used as an abortifacient, an adjuvant, which is to make other medicines stronger, an anti-rheumatic, a diaphoretic, an orthopedic aid, an analgesic, and a febrifuge. Again, it's because the indigenous people sometimes use this, and I'm sure in very small amounts, so it's strong medicine. So it is toxic to humans. It's toxic to animals. Yeah. But if it's been used at all, it's been used for heart complications or kidney complaints. So some people say to steep the twigs in tea. Again, just don't do that. Okay. So small amounts of the bark, and I'm sure we're talking minuscule amounts, okay? So the bark was dried in like a paper sack for years, and then small amounts were given to horses to make their coats shine, okay? It's also, though, let me tell you, there is some interesting things about cancer. So there's clinical trials that have been done for they've created a drug called Taxol. Taxus is the genus name. So, and it's made from the Pacific yew, okay? And it really had great effects for ovarian cancer. And so this study was done in 1988, and it was done for women that weren't responding to chemo. 30% had a complete remission, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And the problem is, though, is that Taxol is hard to produce. It's very difficult to produce. And yeah, so that's the problem with this whole thing. So now we're going to look at indigenous practice. And there are pages of it, 2 pages, in fact, and they are lengthy because there's this book by Mormon, Moerman, and Mormon, and he talks about the indigenous uses of different plants. And it is like a tome of finally, in fact.
Do you know if he's indigenous?
I don't know, but I will show you the book. I have it right here. This is the book. Okay.
Oh, it's like blocking out.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I can. Oh, there you go, right there.
Native American medicinal plants. And I don't know if you can see, but it is like, it's like a dictionary, basically. So that's where I'm getting this information from. So again, I do not recommend that you do any of these things, but I'm just here to tell you what Mormon is recording.
Mm.
So it's Daniel E. Mormon. Okay. So first, there's three different trees that the indigenous people were using. Taxus baccata is the English yew, and the Iroquois used it as an abortifacient. They put it in medicines to give it strength. The old rheumatism cure. They steeped the compound, they steamed it, and they used it for externally for rheumatism. They also took a decoction for the cold. Okay, come on. I
Yeah.
can't have, like, okay, but it seems
Seems
okay.
like there might be other options.
Exactly. To bring on menstruations, hence it's an abortifacient.
Yeah.
For cough, for fever, numbness in the fingers or legs, you can use the steam for chest colds or take a decoction during the early stages of tuberculosis. So
Mm.
now we're going to look at Taxus brevifolia, which is Pacific yew, which is where you are. So this is
Nice.
so the Bella Coola used it for the lungs.
Mm.
The Chehalis used an infusion for wash. They washed people with an infusion during fevers, and it was also a panacea. So it was like they used an infusion of the crushed leaves for general health purposes.
Mm.
The Cowlitz people used a poultice of the ground leaves for wounds. The Hi-His, and now I may be just destroying these names, but I'm doing the best I can. So GI, they used it for GI uses, and for that they used a decoction of the wood and the bark. The Hanaxiala, they would take a decoction and then they would cool it, and they would use of the wood, and then they would use it for bloody urine.
Mm.
You know what? I think if you have some of these gnarly things, then at that point,
Yeah. Bloody urine too. Like, oof.
I know. So the Karok, they used it for blood medicine and a decoction of twig bark for stomach aches. The Kitasu was used for GI, and they again used a decoction of wood for the stomach aches. The Klallam used a decoction of the leaves for internal injuries or pain. Again, internal injuries are pretty rough, so
Mm.
I guess at that point, if you're using something toxic,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Mm.
So let's see if I can. Okanagan. Okay. The Okanagan Colville people use scrapings of the tree, and they made a salve, and it was used as a sunburn ointment. The Quinault, you made a poultice. They would chew the leaves, make a poultice, and apply it to wounds. It was also lung medicine. The Swinomish took the twigs and they rubbed the twigs on their body for strength. The Thompson people used a decoction of bark for any illness whatsoever. And the Tsimshian used it for cancer or internal ailments. So maybe they, obviously look at that, cancer,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
they found that Taxol. So, we can learn something.
Yeah.
The Yurok used a decoction of bark to purify the blood. Now we've got one more. The Canadian yew, the Canada yew, is Taxus canadensis, as one might believe for Canadian yew. So the Abnaki, they use the leaves for rheumatism, old rheumatism
York.
cure.
Mm.
The Algonquin, Quebec, they used a decoction for old rheumatism cure, and it was used for women after childbirth. To probably get everything out of the uterus, right? Because it brings on menses, and it is an abortifacient. Okay, they also used it as a poultice. The Algonquin, and I don't know, Tereboul, used it as an abortifacient by infusion of the young branches, and they used it for stomach aches and irregular menses. The Chippewa people used it for Yule rheumatism cure by herbal steam. And it's one of the ingredients in the 32 medicine. And I did not look that up because there is just so much going on. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll get back to that in another video. The malachite or malic it must be malachite used the branch as medicine. The Menominee, they steamed it and they used it externally for rheumatism. And also for the steam was used for numbness and paralysis. The Micmac used it for afterbirth pain and clots, which seems like most people do, for
Yeah.
fever and bowel and internal troubles, and also for scurvy.
Mm.
The I probably destroyed that. And I apologize for my destruction. So they use brews for weakness and fever. The Penobscot, they used it for a cold remedy with an infusion of the twigs. And the Potawatomi used you as a diuretic with an infusion of leaves, and the compound of ground leaves was used for gonorrhea.
Mm.
So that is that. There's a lot on you, but I hope you understand it. It's so amazing. Like it's such an amazing tree from the death connection to the, well, let me just look at the sources. And I did not use any websites this time. I used only my books because there was so much that
Mm.
like there I didn't even, but I do want to draw your attention to one of these books. This Catherine Boyer, Under the Witching Tree, is a rather sweet little book on trees.
Mm.
Um, also, this Hotman, A Druid's Herbal of Sacred Tree Medicine was interesting. Ink rites, botanical curses and poisons, Mormon, we already talked about that. All those very, very nice books about trees and about all things interesting to me.
Hold on, leave that up for a second.
Okay.
Okay. Two things. I think maybe two. Oh, yeah. Isn't you in the, what do they call it? That witches read, the Wiccans read? I think you shows up in that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think so. Also, I was thinking we had talked at one point about making Oghams, like Ogham sticks. It would be interesting. You could cut this if you want, but it would be interesting if we did the Ogham trees and then at the end of our tree thing made Oghams.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that
That
would
would
be
be
cool.
amazing. That would be like an amazing like kind of end to this would be like a practical on
Yeah.
all the trees that we've covered that are Ogham associated with Oghams. And then if we could get a hold of it, I mean, you would have to send me some if they do have you in Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
was, yeah, I was thinking it would be cool. I know that a lot of Oghams are just made from like wood. I don't know if it really specifies, but it would be cool to make each stick on like the wood of that specific tree. And then I
Yeah.
was thinking like if there's any that we can't find, we might be able to go to like a hardware store. I wonder if they, because craft stores have like the wooden poles, the skinny ones. I don't know if that would work, but I wonder if we go to a hardware store if we could pick up the wood that we couldn't find.
There's a couple hardwood stores like that specialize in
Ooh.
unique woods, and I bet there are up by you too. Like
Yeah, yeah,
stores, and so maybe I we can get ourselves to one of, I mean they have, I used to go with my ex-husband because he was in construction and like he used to have a whole thing like Adam knows wood because he we loved wood so much, and we would go to like these really unique like lumber like
Ooh,
hard
like yard.
lumber places that had very interesting different woods. And I would
Mm.
just look at them. I would like touch them. I would be like, ah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be really cool. We should like end the tree sessions with that, I think.
For sure. Okay.
Um, okay, I think that's it. That's all I had.
You have anything more to add about you?
I don't think so. I think yew is a plant that's like commonly discussed in witchy communities, but I don't think a lot of people know a lot about it other than like the magical associations. And like I knew it had associations with like darkness and stuff, but I didn't really know more than that. So it's cool. I think that was a good like starting tree for a little tree session.
Exactly. Our
Yes.
little witchy tree.
And then little witchy talks.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you at the next Ditch Witch Dark.